Women's, and welcome back to another February channel. I'm JMJ Books Corner, and today here we are talking about my February wrap-up. But before we jump into that, I do want to quickly announce that Buffy-a-thon is officially back in March, and we're going to be doing Buffy Vampire Season 2. I put Buffy-a-thon on a 1-month hold, just for the simple fact my mom had surgery, and I wasn't sure how much time I would have, and I wanted to be able to react to the finale. That's really what the answer is, and now we're going to be able to. So Buffy-a-thon, we're watching Buffy Vampire Slayer from Season 1 through 7, and then we're also going to be doing the comic books from 8 to 12. They get a month individual, so Buffy Season 2 will be in March. It does mean originally it was going to end in December as a full-on, year-long, read-along, and watch-along. Now it'll end in January, but that's a single live stream that we're going to be doing in the beginning of January or middle of January for the final season. That being said, the live shows for Buffy Season 2 will be announced on the channel relatively soon, and you can go ahead and put the notifies on so you have an idea of what episode you need to be to by the certain point type of thing. They're episode 12, which is Bad Eggs, and then the final 2 episodes are what we're reacting to this month. And there will be a review like I did for Season 1 at the very end of the month. That being said, let's go ahead and jump into the wrap-up. I will mention there is a little bit more of a talking bit, not just about the book, and that is we're going to talk about The Hidden Oracle, which is the first book in the Trials of Apollo series. This is the third series? The third series in Percy Jackson, but it's like the 11th book I read for it. I'm enjoying Percy Jackson. I have nothing wrong with it. I like the show quite a bit, except for some of the VFX work. Overall, I thought it was pretty good. I do have a reaction. I'll link my Camp Half-Blood playlist above. I'm going to tell you what I rated it. I gave it a 2.75. I was not very impressed with Trials of Apollo. Overall, I just felt like it could be better. I felt like the characterization could be better. I liked the writing was pretty good, and I liked some of the side characters on Apollo. But Apollo himself was very hard to read from, and some of the things kind of irked me the wrong way, and I've been trying to do a little research to figure out if they should irk me the wrong way or not, so I'm going to hold off on that conversation until I have more grounded research into some of my bigger issues with this series overall. I read the first 2 books. We'll talk about the second book later on in this wrap-up, but just so you know, Percy Jackson videos are on a pause at the moment. I don't know when you'll see the Trials of Apollo series video or the Nico D'Angelo one. I'm assuming once I finish all 4, the rest of the 3 other ones I have for this series, I'm going to want to read Nico pretty soon after, just eager to finish Percy Jackson. Say I read all 17 books in the Camp Half-Blood Chronicles for the simple fact that I'm excited to read Nico's. And these books are super duper important for Nico's as well. It was a 2.75. Let's move on. Next one is My Ultranium Sky by Nagase Fura. My Ultranium Sky is a BL manga about 2 boys who are in high school who are trying to figure out what they mean to each other. They are best friends, and their friends are kind of joking around them that they are more, but they have not committed. One of the boys ends up telling the other boys that they love him, and it turns into this somewhat of a rocky relationship. I found it to be extremely cozy by the end. I will not lie, this book didn't really work for me, and so like maybe the last 50%, maybe 75% of the novel, like it took a really long time for it to work, but as soon as it clicked, I thought it was beautiful, and I felt it was extremely cozy. I gave it a 4. Would recommend. Moving on to Blood Skies by Katie Weismer. This is the 3rd book in the Marionette series. The Marionettes follows Valerie as she is training to become Marionette, which are bodyguards to vampires in this class system of a world. The 3rd book was a messy, chaotic time. I enjoyed myself, enjoyed my reread of it. Overall, I gave it a 4 or a 4.25, something over those lines, somewhere in there. I would recommend the series fully. We're going to be reading Ruthless End and doing a swirly vlog like I did for the rest of the series on the channel very soon, which I'm excited about. Then I read Me by Elton John. This is for my quarterly unread TBR. I have 3 books every month that I'm going to be reading, and this was one of them. I'm never picking a memoir again. Not because I didn't like this. I think I gave it like a 4, like a 4.5 or something like that. I really enjoyed reading from Elton John's life. He narrates the audiobook, which was excellent. I didn't have anything to talk about. It's someone's life. I don't really have a lot to say, unless I have so much to say because I was so involved in their life. Not personally, but on the outskirts, like Britney Spears or other people that I've listened to before. This memoir, it just really felt like a good moment for me to read it. I felt sad for Elton. I enjoyed his story, his struggles. I enjoyed reading from them. I enjoyed getting some information and learning some things from him. But overall, I didn't have a lot to say about it, and so it made a very bad vlog clip for you. Will not be picking another memoir if it pops up on the Randomizer again. This was a test. It was a bad one. By the way, I think this was my February book, and I did read it in February. I've not read the other 2. That's okay, right? Someone tell me it's okay. The first one we're going to talk about, the next one was for a 24-hour readathon video that will be coming out in March that I read in February, and so we're going to run through all those books I read for that video because there was quite a few. First one being Joker, Death in the Family. This is more like a collage of different stories embedding into this series, and I did not know that, and so I went in very blind, and I don't recommend that. If you are interested in this, if you know the story, I think you'll have a good time, but I did not, and so I did not have a good time. I read an e-arc for Bad Dreams in the Night by Adam Ellis. This is a short story, horror short story comic book, and I've just realized, one, I do like Adam Ellis as a person quite a bit. I enjoy his Twitter presence. I also really enjoy a lot of his shorter comics, and so I figured this would be a good time. I knew it was a short story collection, and even in that video I do mention how I kind of just wished it was longer. There's a lot of short stories in here that I just wished were longer, that did more for me personally, and this did not do enough. The average rating is the average rating of the amount of comics. There's 12 of them, and it kind of all percolates the same rating. I like to say that I'm excited to read longer stuff from this author, as I think there's enough here, but I can't just keep reading the same concept 24/7, and that's really what this felt like. It felt like the same concept over and over again. Then I had another e-arc, The Light and Blue Between Us by Yuyuko. I have to mention, a lot of people hate this. This is a very commonly hated BL manga on Goodreads. When we looked at a lot of lists, this is towards the bottom of a lot of those lists. A lot of people, this one irks their nerves. I'm not entirely sure. I thought it was a sequel to the first one I read because it has a very similar premise, which could be what a lot of people have irking. I also have been told that the author did not deliver what they were supposed to or something. There's a lot of different reasons that are speculating on the internet for this one. For me personally, I loved it. It was my first really adult steaming BL manga, and I think that's really what took it over. When they had sex for the first time, I was like, oh my god, first seeing them have sex for the first time, it's pretty crazy. And overall, I just had a good time while reading it, and it felt that cozy vibes that I was looking for, and I'm hoping all the BL mangas that I read have that vibe, because it is fucking phenomenal and intoxicating if you find a good cozy one. These two work to me. That being said, I also read The Fury by Alex Mikiads. This will be popping up in a video coming out in, oh my god, September of this year. I have a video where I'm reading all 24 of my top 24 books, and I'm reviewing them all in a single video. It's very similar to another video coming out in March, which I did a catch up for all the books I missed in my top 23, which we'll talk about a little bit later. This I read for that. This was the first book that came out this year on my top 24 books to read in 2024. And that's simply because I read all the other Alex Mikiads before this. I didn't really like them, so I don't know why I wanted to read the newest one. I think I want to be a part of a conversation that personally I didn't really see happening, so I don't really know how well this did for him. And I'm not mad about it. He needs a wake-up call. This was horribly written. This is one of my least favorite books I read this year. The mystery was quite bad, the story was quite bad, and overall I just did not enjoy my experience and or time. The first personness of it, it really did feel like, and it was an e-arc, to be fair, so hopefully the book is a little bit better done. Me personally, it felt like a third draft. I didn't need to go through so many more rounds of revisions before we actually got to the final product. I don't want to spoil anything. I do kind of in that video. It doesn't really matter. But there's something that happens towards the end of the book that I felt is becoming relatively repetitive in his stories and quite annoying. The next one, I read a single volume of The Walking Dead from this big guy, volume 3, and I hated it. It's by far the worst one so far. I gave it a 2.5 stars. I could not recommend it less. I will be continuing on. Ooh. Then I read a bunch of poetry, so let's talk about my poetry, because it was a time. I read Sharks in the River by Ada Lemon. This I gave it 3 stars. I just think it was a little bit outside of my intelligence range. That's really what the answer is here. I have nothing else to say about it. Once again, in this 24-hour readathon, I go in more depth about all of these books, so if you are curious about my opinion for any of these, they will be deeper there. We have Best Barbarian by Roger Raves. I gave this a 4 star. Once again, a lot of this stuff did kind of go over my head, but I understood enough of it to take good stuff away from it and would recommend. Then we have Above Ground by Quentin Smith. This is about fatherhood, and I just have yet to really experience anything that's talked about here, and so there was somewhat of a divide for me. I enjoyed a lot of different stories in here, and I felt like the more educational essays and poems in here were better than the personal ones. I'm sure if you're a father going into fatherhood and stuff, you could find a lot of good things in this, so I would recommend. And then I am fully caught up to Saga, which is great. This is Saga volume 11. If you did not know, I had to read the last 2 or 3 issues in here. Overall, this one gave a 4. I don't think we're at good level with Saga like we were before Saga went on its hiatus. I am excited to read more. I'm super curious about the story, where it's going, but a part of me just says wait until it's done, because it looks like it's going to be several more years. And so far, just reading the issues individually don't do it as well if you're binge reading the series, because there's somewhat of a disconnect liked somewhere in between. I still like the stories. I still like the characters. I'm still curious to see where the characters are going. I just wish they were doing more with it and more were coming out with it. I know it's really hard to produce a comic, but Saga is an extremely popular comic. I feel like we should be able to pick up more ground, I guess. And then we have Turn Me Loose, The Unghosting of Meteor Evers by poems by Frank X. Walker. This is about an assassination, and it's told from all the different perspectives and things, and it was fucking phenomenal. Could not recommend enough. Was a 5. Then I read The Dark Prophecy, Charles Paulo Book 2. I landed on, I think this was a 3. I liked it a little bit better. My biggest issue with the sequel, without giving, going into spoilers or anything like that, I just don't really like the growth of Apollo's character, and I wish Rick Gordon was doing more. That's really all I can tell you. Then I also read Immortal Longings by Koi Gong. This was the final book I needed to read for that video that will be coming out, where I read like 13 books in the video for you. All sit down reviews of very popular releases that came out the year prior. This was the last one. I loved it. It was a 4-star. We'll be continuing on in the series. It's about 2 people who are competing in a competition to take down the government, and it was a good time. Would recommend. And lastly, I read my own book, GSR Book 2, at the very end of the month to start my rewrite for March. It doesn't really count, but I did read it. Don't have a cover. That being said, those are the 17 books I read. It was a bit of a mixed bag. I will have to say I didn't read as much as I wanted to. My goal was 29 this month because there was 29 days. That's pretty cool. You know what I mean? Like, we're in a leap year. This is a leap day, type of thing when I'm filming this. But the issue is that Percy Jackson really held me back for putting me in a slight reading slump, because it did. I tried to combat that reading slump with all the reading for the 24-hour readathon. Either way. Also, let me know what your guys' favorite book of the month is, your least favorite book. My favorite book, I think, would probably be this one. Yeah, I'd say it's Turn Me Loose, which is probably my favorite book, and my least favorite book is Febuary by Alex Mankiewicz. Being said, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll talk to you all next time. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.